Hey guys, it's Saul, and I was just going to show you what Countdown's about. So I've logged into my character, and first thing you want to do is make sure you got your build that you plan to use for the Countdown run. So I'm in my hazard protected tank build with opportunistic and Scorpio, and we got perfect Vanguard on here as well. That's a really good support build. Other really good builds to use. The Heartbreaker build, we got a 4 red and 2 blue Heartbreaker build with rock and roll shotgun, carbine 7 that has flatline on it, and jammer, or not jammer, scanner pulse. That's a really good build to use as well. The build that you don't want to use is your drone turret build. So repeat, really do not recommend using a drone turret build. And the reason for that is hunters that you encounter in Countdown can hack your skills and turn them against you. And your deployed skills, when they get hacked, have the same stats as you do, so they are just murder. So don't use drones or turrets. Things like Stinger Hive can also be hacked as well. So when you're fighting hunters, just keep in mind you don't want to use any skills that could be turned against you. So the next thing you want to do is open up your map, and then you go all the way up here to the power plant. You want to push down on your D-pad to pull up your targeted loot selection. And so you want to go through and pick whatever targeted loot it is that you want. Right now I'm going to be choosing Heartbreaker because I'm feeding trash materials over to my level 30 character. Level 30 characters can craft Heartbreakers, so I'm going to make a Heartbreaker build on my level 30 character for farming the Dark Zone. So once again, you just tap down on D-pad, it brings up the targeted loot menu. You want to pick that before you matchmake, before you enter. It's just one less thing to have to think about later. So now we got our targeted loot selected, you push triangle. And then since I'm just doing a dry run here, I'm going to hold the X button to create a countdown. So then it brings up the same menu that you see in raids, and it works the exact same way. If you have clanmates or friends online, you can invite them directly into your countdown group, and then they'll stay in their own world until you start the countdown, so they won't join your group. It works exactly the same as raids. And then if you want to be the group leader for a random countdown group, you tap the triangle button, it'll find agents automatically. And since the mode is new and everybody loves it, it's pretty easy to find a group that can, a random group will come together pretty quick. So in a normal world we'd have 8 people to do all of this, but like I said, I'm just giving you a dry run here, so I'm just going to start it by myself. And then, so I've held the square button to start the countdown. Get your cute little countdown for the countdown. So this is the time that you can spend contemplating your life decisions and deciding if you've done all the right things, maybe picking that next amazing venture that's up for you in your life. Maybe you're finally going to ask out your crush. Who knows? Now that countdown screen loaded pretty fast because I'm by myself. When you have 8 players, that countdown screen is going to take a lot longer because it's trying to get 8 players synced. And already we load in, you're going to notice we got our timer. The very first thing you need to do in Countdown, very quickly, is go ahead and open up your mega map. Now when you do, what you notice is you've got these 3 red icons. They're always going to be in the middle of the screen, but they may be different each time you run. So there's still a set number of countermeasures that can spawn, and then the game just picks 3 out of the pool of potential countermeasures. So these countermeasures debuff you. So you notice this one here affects skill cooldowns. Until you clear this countermeasure, your skill cooldowns will be twice as long as they would normally be. So you want to get rid of that countermeasure. Here, this one deals only 3/4 of the damage that you would normally do to enemies when you're more than 35 meters away from them. So once we clear that, then you get your long range damage back. And then this one is it nerfs your skill damage. So you only get 1/4 of your usual skill damage that you would normally get. So you do want to clear these, whatever they are. Some other ones I can think of off the top of my head, like this one deals with long range damage. There can also be a countermeasure that deals with short range damage. There's also one that makes it so that enemies can't have status effects applied to them at all. It's got like the biohazard icon instead of the skull icon, for example. And until you clear that, you can't like use riot foam or shock, burn, bleed, any of the other status effects until you clear that. So the first thing you want to do when you get into countdown is find the countermeasure that's closest to your spawn point. So I'm up here, and you want to select that on your mega map. You're going to do that a lot quicker than I did. So basically you drop in, you load in, you spawn, and then you pick the nearest countermeasure to you. You start running as quick as you can to there, because again, you see up in the upper left, you've got the 3 red icons, and here's our hunter. Each time you make it to countermeasure, there's going to be a hunter guarding it. So fight! I don't know that I'm actually going to be able to solo this hunter, so we'll see. Probably not. So here's what we're going to try to do instead. We're going to see if we can sucker the hunter into letting me past him. One really important thing to remember is that hunter's melee attacks will absolutely decimate you. So the idea is you want to kill the hunter and then make it to this box. And when you do, you interact with it, and then you see up at the top, countermeasure subverted. And so then, assuming you've killed your hunter, you select the next countermeasure with your group, and you run on from there.
Immediate medical assistance needed.
And again, if you die at any point in the mission prior to extraction, you get to respawn. I'm about to die any second. Thank you, firewall. Got a little armor regen on this build. So you just keep going around and you try to clear these countermeasures. And then if you look in the upper left of the screen under my mini-map, you see that the countermeasure icons are turning green. That's a good way to keep track of which countermeasures your group, your group has cleared. So, hunters everywhere. Give myself some Vanguard bonus armor. So each one of these hunters, if you can successfully kill them, each one of them will drop at least one piece of loot, and I believe, I'm not totally sure if it's always a piece of named gear, but it's usually a piece of named gear. So the loot is really, really good. So you're usually going to get at least 1 or 2 pieces of loot for each hunter kill, and it's going to be good loot. So now we've cleared all 3 countermeasures, and in a real life example, we would have killed all 3 hunters. So assuming you did all of that, the next thing you do is you look at your map again. These yellow diamonds are encounters. That's what the game calls them, encounters. And so you've got these 3. Your group only needs to do 2 of them.
10 minutes to log down.
So if you do 2 of these encounters, you clear them, then it unlocks the main objective, or in this case it says core objective, and you notice there up in the upper left it says locked. So that's locked because we haven't completed 2 of the encounters yet. And I'm surprised that hunter hasn't killed me while I've just been twiddling around in my map. Each one of the encounters has a specific mission. These are very similar to Summit, so these should feel kind of familiar to you. In this one, you have to protect the VIP. That's the same thing as in Summit when you have to protect the hostage, or you got a hostage situation. The goal is you just keep them from getting killed. Waves of enemies will spawn. You kill the enemies. If the VIP goes down, then you can revive them. You get a 30-second timer to revive them, and as long as you keep them alive and kill all the enemies, you'll clear the protect VIP. Shade crate, so in this area there's going to be 2 shade crates that spawn, and they're the ones that shoot off hostile skills and deploy those across the room. So with this one you need at least 2 people from your group to be able to clear it. The protect VIP is tough to solo, but it can be soloed if you need to. It's better if you have, your 4-person group. And the reactor with the shade crate, you want at least 2 people so you can take both shade crates. One person has to be standing in the radius of a shade crate to be able to take control of the shade crate, and so you need 2 people, each one standing in the circle of the shade crate to take it over, just like in Summit, to be able to clear that objective. And then once you claim both shade crates, you'll get a final spawn of enemy wave, an enemy wave as a final spawn, and then you kill them and you've cleared it. The cooling tower is a warhound, so in there you go in and shoot 2 server boxes and destroy those. Pretty easy. And then after that you'll be able to damage the warhounds, take them all out. So you get a few waves of enemies and warhounds, and once you clear all of those, then you've defeated the cooling tower. So, and again, if I beat either any 2 of these, then that's going to unlock the laboratory. You can do the 3rd one for a few extra countdown credits. It's not terribly rewarding in my experience. I think you get 3 extra countdown credits. That's not a whole lot. So, don't stress yourself out about doing all 3. But and then just like the countermeasures, different encounters can spawn. So a couple other examples. My personal favorite is on the map, it would say hack where it says shade crate right now. So instead of saying shade crate, it would say hack. And the hack is you just have to go sit by a box until you capture that box, and then when you do, you're going to kind of claim that box, and then you destroy 2 servers, and you kill the enemies, and you're done. So that's kind of the easiest one. If I ever see that on my map, I will typically try to solo it because it is easy to solo. You have to be smart. You have to spend less time engaged with enemies than you probably want, but when you do, it's pretty rewarding to get something done all the way by yourself. So that's the basic concept. I'm gonna go ahead and wipe this.
Immediate medical assistance needed.
Not because I couldn't take the hunters, because I wanted to. So again, just to recap, when you get here, first thing you want to do when you spawn in, pick the closest countermeasure to your spawn point, clear all 3 of the countermeasures in order, collect your hunter loot with your group, and then typically how you decide which one of these you're going to tackle, just whichever one you're closest to. You are on a timer, and so it makes the most sense to pick whichever one of these you're closest to. Unless you see an objective or an encounter that you really enjoy running, like as in my case with the hack encounter, I really like running off regardless of who else with my group wants to come with me. I'll go off and do that one by myself because chances are good then we'll get all 3 encounters done, can bag a few extra credits. After you get your 2 encounters done, I can't really show you this by myself, but you're going to go do the main objective. That's going to generally be more complicated than the encounters, but not like raid level complicated. It's really not that hard, it's just a little bit harder. And some people have said that the individual encounters are scaled for 4 people, while the main objective is scaled for 8. I'm not sure I totally believe that. As of a run last night, me and 1 other person were able to get to the main objective before everybody else and start it, and it really didn't feel like the enemy spawns were scaled to 8 people. It felt like it was scaled to the 2 of us that were there. So that's kind of the general mission run. We're going to go into the cooling tower here just to hide out. But after you complete the main objective, you're going to get a big pop on your screen that says main objective completed. And then once that's done, it's going to kick off the extraction phase. So you see your extraction zones are here, here, and here. These are also spawn zones. So typically your extraction is going to be the last remaining spawn zone that didn't have a group spawn into it. That's not really that important. After you complete the main objective, your map is going to automatically put the extraction zone as a waypoint on your map. So just follow your GPS lines after you do the main objective, and you'll see exactly where you need to go to get to the extraction. Once you get to the extraction, it's a lot more furious than any other point before. And this is where you really need to remember, don't use deployed skills like drones, turrets, hives, damage skills, and things like that. Because there will be hunters at the extraction. They will hack your skills, turn them against you, and you will die a horrible, fast death, along with many of your teammates, if not all. So just remember that. But you get to the extraction zone. You're going to fight hunters along the way. The combat is a lot more packed in. There's a lot more enemies there to fight, so you just wipe them out best you can. Stick together with your group for the extraction. That's your best bet for survival. And then you fight your way to the extraction zone. There you're going to have a prompt to be able to call in a chopper. A pro tip is do not call the chopper until your countdown timer has run almost all the way down. After you complete the main objective, you're going to get 4 minutes to run to your extraction zone and fight the enemies and call the chopper. Use the entire 4 minutes practically, like maybe there's like 6 or 7 seconds left before the timer runs out. Use that entire time to fight enemies before you call the chopper. And the reason is, if you wait to call in the chopper, you'll get more waves of enemies and potentially more loot. So keep fighting enemy waves until the timer is almost out, then call the chopper. Then you're going to get a 20-second timer for the chopper to arrive. You keep fighting enemies. After the chopper arrives, you get a 30-second timer to actually extract. And so there, typically once it gets down to about 10 seconds, you want to go ahead and find the rope from the chopper and extract. Extract in this case means you extract your agent, not just your loot. So when you extract in countdown, you're extracting yourself. And then once you actually successfully extract, you're done. That's it. You get end of mission report, and then you leave your group. It sends you back to your own White House. You can look over all your loot and go home, and it's going to be great. So basically what should happen here, I might actually be able to show you what an extraction looks like if I run out of time on everything. Okay, so this is an example of an extraction zone right here.
Lockdown in 1 minute.
So in this case, this area here, like this whole square right along where I'm tracing with my reticule, is going to be an extraction zone. And so in this particular one, the enemies are going to drop in from a chopper right down around here. And it's just like every other Black Tusk chopper drop. You just sit here and, you know, gank them down. And then once you've done that, you go over here, you'd hold your square button to fire off your flare. That calls in the chopper. Chopper's going to come in right around here, and they're going to give you a rope that you can use to get out of here. I'm kind of curious to see what happens when this timer runs out. So just a couple other finer points. You notice you only get 2 armor kits. You'll pick up armor kits from drops.
Emergency lockdown protocol is complete. Reactor.
Yep, so here we go. We're now in extraction mode. You see the square here. Got hunters, Black Tusk coming in. So we shoot the flare when the timer has run out. And then if you die during extraction, you stay dead. So, that's how to do countdown. When you do it in a full group, it is wild, it's chaotic and fast and furious. and you get just a whole bunch of loot, which is really cool. So I dig that. So that's kind of the basic how-to guide. I'll go ahead and do one here in a minute to show you what it's like in actual practice.